truth and the life. We live by faith and not by sight. For you, we're living above.
All right, guys, grab a seat. Grab a seat. There's seats in front. There's seats on the side now. Man. If you guys are wondering why all the wooden patio stuff is outside, it's not because we didn't want you guys to sit back there. Actually, it's because this coming year we really wanted to create an atmosphere for a place for after service or even before service where people can sit and chat and talk with one another. So that's one of the things we're trying to do out there. So, hopefully you guys utilize it to the best of your ability. We don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully termites don't come and the rain don't kill it, but we're doing our best for that. So, yeah, I'm glad you guys are here. The group looks so nice. You guys all sitting in the chairs. It was amazing. Praise the Lord for that. Man, all right. I got a good word for you guys today. We're in a series called Generous Community. And this series is a series about us as a people, as a community of God, going out there, just living it out by giving ourselves to the people around us, whether it's financially, whether it is with our time or energy, whether it's just by offering the greatest gift that we can possibly offer, which is Jesus Christ. And so we talked about all these things. We talked about what does it look like to be a community, talked about what we can actually offer, what do we have to actually say is of any worth and value that we can give to people. We talked about just going through the situation where you have to just do it day in and day out. What good can come out of that last week? What good can come out of just doing the same thing over and over and over? And yet in the midst of doing that, we see God working and changing and transforming lives. And so it's meant to be a encouragement for us. But today I want to share with you guys what to say. Because a lot of times you're like, oh, this is great, be generous, but what am I actually supposed to say to people? Right? What is it that I actually have to say? How can I actually speak into people's life where they want to hear the gospel? What is it that I can say that would actually proclaim and give honor to who Jesus is in this generation? Because we are living in a generation where they don't know God. They don't care about heaven or hell. People don't have guilt of sin. They don't care about good or bad. They just do as they do, right? We're living in that generation where people don't have any essence of that. So how do you speak about sin and forgiveness when they don't even care about what they've done wrong or right? How do you speak into a generation? And that's what I want to share with you guys today, because up to this point in the book of Acts, what we see Paul doing in this in his mission is that he goes to a city and he enters the where? You guys remember? First place he enters? Starts with an S. The synagogue. He goes to the synagogue because in the synagogue are people, Jewish people, who knows about God, who knows about the Abrahamic God and Judaic God and God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They know about that God. They also, in that group, are non-Jewish people who also know about that God. And so Paul comes in and he further elaborates on the hope of Jesus Christ in the midst of that. So he talks about sin and forgiveness to them because they understand. They have a background of it. But today we're going to get into a situation where Paul enters a city where they have no background in that. They are like our generation, a pluralistic, polytheistic society, right, that has no really big background in who God is, heaven or hell, right or wrong. They don't care about the guilt of sin or forgiveness or anything like that. So how do we speak into that? We're going to learn from Paul. We're going to see what he did. And hopefully maybe there's some of you guys in this room too. A situation where you have an idea, but you don't really know much about God or whatever. How do we speak into that life? Okay? And that's what we're going to be trying to do. We're going to identify three things that Paul did. He spoke with deeds, he identified their idols, and he showed them the deepest longing. Three things that if you would begin to engage in, you can speak not only to your heart, but you can begin to speak into the hearts of the generation of the people today. That if you would love with deeds, that if you would identify their idols that we have, and that you would speak of the deepest fulfillment of your longing. If you can speak that, you can speak into the generation. Okay? So let me share with you guys today about that. So open your Bibles to Acts chapter 14, where we're going to read verse 8 to 11. He's in the city of Lystra, and while he's in this city, he's preaching, he's talking, he's sharing, and there was a crippled man sitting there listening to him. And what Paul does to this crippled man, as he was just sharing, people just listening, they don't even know what he's saying most of the time, but as he heals this crippled man, everyone who saw what he did began to really want to listen to what he's saying. Okay? What's going to happen is we're going to read about this crippled man who's been crippled since birth. Paul's going to heal this guy. He's going to do this deed, and in doing this deed, the people who have seen it done, they begin to say, tell us more what you have to say. Okay? Acts chapter 14, verses 8 through 13. Let's start there. In Lystra, there sat a man crippled in his feet, who was lame from birth and had never walked. He listened to Paul as he was speaking. Paul looked directly at him, saw that he had faith to be healed, and called out, stand up on your feet. And at that, the man jumped up and began to walk. When the crowd saw what Paul had done, they shouted in the Lycaonian language, the gods have come down to us in human form. And Barnabas they called Zeus, Paul they called Hermes because he was chief speaker. The priest of Zeus, whose temple was just outside the city, brought bulls and wreaths to the city gates because he had the crowd wanted to offer sacrifices to them. One of the greatest ways in which we begin to speak about our God to this generation, right? One of the greatest ways in which we begin to engage this generation is not by saying a bunch of things. It's not by giving them like all of the information that they can possibly want. Who cares? What you want, I'm sure, right? And the problem some of you guys see, the big problem some of you guys have with your parents is because they speak a lot of stuff about Bible, but they don't really live it out. Isn't that true? Okay? The thing that they desire most in this generation is deeds before words. Let me see you live it before you speak it. Because if we see what you do, then we will listen to the words which you have. Throughout the ministry of Jesus, Peter, Paul, they all did the exact same thing. Jesus came in, he did healing, they saw it, and then they listened. Peter healed, they saw it, and then they listened. There was deeds that were done, they saw it, and they listened. Right? There were deeds that were done even without miraculous deeds that were done. That they did it. After they did it, they did what? They listened to the message they had to say. Because deeds comes before the word. When you are going to live this gospel out to people, this good news to people, the first thing you got to remember is that, am I actually living this out? Am I just talking a good game, or do my life actually reflect this truth? Do I have the deeds that backs up the words? Right? You speak it and then you live it out. But I know what you guys are thinking. Oh, PT, man, like, homie healed somebody. The last time I healed somebody was never, right? I mean, nobody be doing any more miracles nowadays. So I'll wait till I get some miracles, power, and then I'll start talking about Jesus, right? No, that's not the point here, guys, right? In our society, in such a huge consumeristic society, a society that just consumes things, do you know what's a miracle? Do you know what's an actual miracle? Seeing people give. Seeing people live extravagantly generous lives. Seeing people lay down themselves for others. When people see that, in a society whose culture is about receiving, taking what's mine, for me first, when people see that, you know what they're looking at? They're looking at a miracle. Like, what in the world would do that? What would compel somebody to give more than what they have to offer? What would compel somebody to lay down themselves, their lives, to someone they don't even know about? What would compel somebody to live like that? Because deeds, in a generous, extravagant, grace-like way, is seen like miracles in this generation. Right? How do you speak to this group? How do you live your life out? Honestly, guys, if you guys want your life to be an impact, if you want your life to be a life that's actually of generosity to the community, you know how you do it? You live the needy first. You provide for a need. You give yourself for the act. You do it first, and then when the word comes, it speaks louder. It speaks so loud. Let me give you an example. I'll tell you a story. I think I told this story a few times, but I like the story, so I'll tell it again. Right? It was one night I was driving, right, back in the days. I was driving home from a Bible study. You know, we've been talking about Bible stuff all day, driving Bible stuff. It's raining like it's like cats and dogs. You can barely see. The windshield wipers just, when it rains so hard, when you wipe the windshield, you still can't see anything, right? That kind of wipe. So it was so rainy. I was like, I wanted to stop by 7-Eleven to pick up a Red Bull because I always pick up Red Bull at 7-Eleven. So it's like around 10 o'clock at night. I'm driving. I pull up and just I couldn't see anything, right? But as my windshield wiper was doing this, there was like this figure at where 7-Eleven, like one of like it looks like a solicitor standing there, and it's like I see his face. Right? I was like, it was kind of creepy, So I was late and I was tired. I didn't want to deal with like interacting, because I am an introvert. I was like, I used all my energy on the youth kids. I have none left, right? So I turn off my lights, turn off the windshield wiper. I got out of the car. So like you walk this way, I would walk right directly to him. So I didn't want to directly face him because then that means interaction. So I got out of the car and I walked around my whole entire car, like to this way, so I can get to the 7-Eleven door without any interaction. So I did my thing. I bought my stuff. I was walking out, right? And I was walking out. Then I was confused, like, oh shoot, if I want to get back to my door, I have to go past him. I should go the other way. But I was like, as I was like kind of struggling with that, I look up and he looked at me, and so our eyes caught. I was like, dang it, he sees me, right? And like again, pouring rain. And I looked at him. You know what? I didn't fully observe him at first, but when I looked at him, you know what was so weird about him? He was only wearing board shorts, no shirts on. It's raining cats and dog. Homie's just standing there, it's creepy as heck, with the board shorts. And this is what he did to me. He's like, and I was like, no, not today, right? But he's like. So I was like, oh man, all right, fine, right? So I walked over, I was like, do I have any quarters on me at least, I was like walking towards him, right? And then his hands was behind his back, so I like one of his hands behind, so I didn't really see it. Like, I was like walking towards him, and then he pulls out. I was like, oh, where's he put a Bible? I was like, what? He says, can I share with you something? He's shivering, and I'm just standing like cold. And he was like, I have a word I want to share with you. Can I share with you? I was like, right now? He's like, yes. I was like, oh, okay, go ahead, bro, right? He's like, okay. It's like flipping through it, and I was like this awkward moment. I'm just standing there, rain's pouring down right here, and he's like, oh man, right? He looks at me, he says, this is what I want to share with you. And he said, okay, it's from Isaiah. He read, and then I remember these words very, very clearly, because why? The deed behind it impacted my soul so much, it like seared into my brain. This is what he said. He said, I'm just going to read it, but it says this: my people, they worship me with their lips, but their hearts are so far from me, right? And I'm like standing there, I'm like, no, don't say that, right? That's so mean. Why would you say that right now? And I'm like, it's just so awkward because I know part of me was so convicted. I was just full of shame. I'm like, I should have helped, blah, blah, blah. I was thinking all these things, right? I'm like saying that, and all of a sudden, like, reality hits me. I'm like, hey, dude, let me ask you a question real fast. Like, why are you in your board shorts? It's freaking cold. He's like, yeah, I gave my clothes to the homeless guy that was here before. And I was like, oh, double whammy. Like, I thought you were homeless, man. I was like, yeah, I know, I thought so too, right? I was like, so I'm just waiting for my ride. I'm like, oh man. Like, so it's like double the hurt. I'm like, man, I'm sinner. What a sinner, right? So I was like, all right, can I get you a cup of coffee? He's like, yeah, that'll be nice. So I walked in. Right, I was gonna get a cup. I got a cup of coffee. I gave it to the cashier. The cashier was like, you know what, Tony? I mean, he didn't say Tony, but you know what? It's weird, right? Right? But it's in my head. I'm talking to myself most of the time, right? He's like, you know what? I've been sitting here. I've been seeing that guy out there for about almost an hour now. No one stopped for him except for you. I'm like, no, it wasn't. Right? And he's like, is this coffee for him? He's like, yeah. Yeah, you can give it to him for free. I was like, thanks. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Like, why'd you stop? And I was like, because I'm a Christian, right? He's like, hey, what church do you go to? All right, what churches around here? Just introduce me to one. I want to see it. And I was like, man, wait. I was like thinking in my head, like, God, am I the bad guy in this story or the good guy? I can't tell anymore. Like what? I feel like you just jujitsu me somehow. Like I was the bad guy, but I feel like I'm a good guy now. Like what is it? Like I was like, so I just shared with him like, okay, well, there's a few churches down here, you can check it out, blah blah. Oh, I'll give the guy coffee, and I was like, all right, man, have a good day. I'll see you later. Right? So I drove home, But that's the thing. Like it's not about how articulate you are with your words. Because the big thing that people see, the big thing that people catch is what you do. Knowledge is caught more than taught, right? You guys hear that phrase? you catch it more than you teach it. People who watch, they see it. Your children, your cousins, your nephews, they catch what you do before they actually do it themselves. You can teach them all the words in the world, but if they don't see it in your life, they don't see it. How do you begin to reach people, guys? You actually got to live out your deeds. Don't just talk about it, but actually do it. Live it out. If God is about generosity, then aren't we to be a people of generosity? Not with just our money, but with our time, with our energy, with our resources, to give ourselves to people. All right? And when we do that, when we lay down our life like that in such a big way, it becomes miraculous. And I shared with you guys back in the days before when the Black Plague came into all of Europe. What happened? People were throwing their families out in the street to die. The Christians, they took them home. They took them in. They lived their life, not even afraid of death. They lived their life in deeds and in such a way where they healed these people back to health, even at the cost of their own lives. What happened to the whole area? It became believers. The whole cities became believers because it's the action. When it's done, then the words are heard even deeper. You guys follow me? Deeds before words. Now, what's the second thing that happens? So deeds before words. And so what happens next is that you have to say something. How does Paul speak to this group? A group of people who, by all account, have no understanding of Jehovah God, no understanding of the Abrahamic God, no understanding of the process of the laws and Torah and all that stuff. How does Paul speak to them? Does he use sin and forgiveness, that you need this and that? How does he speak to them? And we're going to look at this because what he does is this. It's very masterful, beautiful actually. He speaks by identifying their idols. He speaks into their life by identifying their idols. Look at verse 14. But when the apostle Barnabas and Paul heard of this, they tore their clothes and rushed out into the crowd, shouting, "Men, why are you doing this? We too are only men, humans like you. We are bringing you good news, telling you to turn away from these worthless things to the living God, who made the heaven and earth and sea and everything in them. In the past, he let all nations go their own way, yet he has not left himself without testimony. He has shown kindness by giving you rain from heaven and crops in their season. He provides you with plenty of food and fills your hearts with joy." All right? What is Paul saying with all this? He is telling them this. He's not saying, "Oh, you're a bunch of sinners, you need forgiveness." He's not standing out in the streets sign with these huge things like repent or go to hell, anything like that. To a group who does not care about hell or heaven, does not care about the devil, who does not care about God or the Bible, who has no guilt of their wrongs, how does Paul speak to them? And I bet you a lot of your friends are like that. Maybe some of you guys are like this, where you don't believe in the Bible. You're subjective to it. You don't care who God is. The devil is just this fairy tale dude to you, right? Heaven and hell is like impossible, and there's no guilt that you have before you're living a righteous God. There's no guilt that you live with. How does Paul speak into that? How does Paul speak into you know what he does? He identifies their idols. He's saying this: you are worshiping worthless things. What you need to have is a new master. He calls into their life because he knows one identifying truth for all humanity. Everyone is worshiping something. Everyone is giving their lives to something very specific. Everyone has a master. You may not think that that is your master, but if you give your worth, your identity, your time, your heart, everything to it, that is your master. And Paul is saying that is worthless. You need a new master. You need the living God. See, the worship of those things, money, love, this worship of those idols, what they do is they promise you great things. They promise you great rewards, but in the end, they leave you hungry for more and empty. They promise you big, but they leave you hungry for more, never satisfied, and you're constantly feeling empty. See, your idols, Paul is saying, are dead. They're not even alive. But the God who made the heavens, the earth, the seas, and everything in it is alive. Your idols are powerless, but God is the creator. Your idols take more than they give. They take from you. They take your sanity. They take your age. They take your strength. They take your heart. They take your joy. But God, look at verse 17. Paul says, but God gave you things whether you acknowledge them or not. Even in the midst of you not acknowledging them, he said, I still left you a testimony. He still showed you kindness. He still brought joy, plenty of food to fill your hearts with joy. He's been giving good things even when you don't acknowledge him. You know how you speak to a people? You don't say, oh, you're a sinner. You messed up. You know what you say? There's something that you're worshiping that's control over your heart. Think about it. If you live for love, listen, guys, if you live, or you ladies, listen, if you live for love, you'll be satisfied for a moment if you get it, right? You'll be happy when you get it, but what happens with love? You're going to keep fighting for it because you're always going to wonder, is this good enough? Did I do enough? You're gonna keep asking yourself the question, how much more do I have to work at it? How much more do I have to do to please this person, to make them happy, right? And you are controlled by the one you love. Isn't that true? If you live for love, you're not free. You are controlled by the one that you love. If you live for your career, and once you get your career, you feel satisfied, but you know you're not satisfied because you want more from your career. It doesn't. It's only a taste of it. They're like, yes, now I want more. And if you get it, you keep yearning for more. You're never satisfied. But when you lose it, listen, when you lose it, what happens? What happens when you lose it? It breaks you. When you lose it, you feel powerless. When you lose it, it doesn't forgive you. It makes you feel empty. Same thing with love. You get it, you feel happy about it for a time, then you keep searching for it, and then when you lose love, what happens? You feel empty. If you live for material blessings, if your life is about material blessings, how much I can acquire and accumulate. Ladies aren't the only ones that accumulate shoes. Brothers accumulate shoes too, right? Every single Jordan that comes out, right? Maybe it's not shoes. Maybe it's like technology, right? Every upgrade for your phone, even though it doesn't seem like anything changed, you still have to get the upgrade. Like, what changed? The phone jack is on top. Whoa, right? Life changer. I got to upgrade, right? When you live to find accumulation for things, what happens? Once you get it, you feel like, oh, I'm so excited. But after a while, you know, with all your phones, you're like, oh, it's whatever, right? You just go through it. Then if you lose it, what happens when you break your phone? You're like, oh my God, my life is over, right? Oh, you feel like, oh man, what do I do now? I can't do anything, right? You feel punished. If you fail it, you feel broken. If you live for beauty, for your health, you get that perfect body, and you're like, yes. But you know, even when people get that perfect body, it's funny. It's like, oh yeah, there's still so much work to do. I was like, what the heck? Like, there's literally an 8-pack. How many other packs do you want? Like, there's still so much work to do. I'm like, what in the world? But then you don't get it, right? Then you feel like, man, broken, right? Feel like empty, right? Like, oh man, I'm never going to look like so-and-so, right? But God, the living God, the true master, he is the only master that if you get him, he will satisfy. And if you fail him, he will forgive. You guys hear that? He is the only master that if you get him, will fully satisfy. And if you fail him, he will forgive. There's no sense of emptiness and brokenness. There's no sense of hurt and pain. I know a friend, I know a person who attempted suicide because she didn't get into Stanford, right? Her family, all of her siblings got into Stanford, and she didn't get in. And she just felt like the whole life was just like this getting into the school. And they found her. The security found her at the beach, right? Windows rolled up. She had the exhaust pipe, into her car, and she was going to commit suicide that way. If the security guard didn't come by, she would have died, right? What would lead a person to come to such an emptiness that would take their own life? You know what? It's when you live for worthless things that have no power, that have no ability, that have no strength, that has nothing, that is dead. When you fail it, it kills you. It is unforgiving, isn't it? It is a rough taskmaster. It says, you are nothing unless you have this. And because you don't have it, you are nothing. And it eats you alive, and it speaks into your heart, and it just eats at you day in and day out, over and over. And yet God is the only master. Paul's saying, God is the only master that if you have him will satisfy, but if you fail him, will forgive. Because even when you did not acknowledge him, he still brought joy to your life. He gave you sun, he gave you rain, he gave you crops to bring joy. Right? I remember Trisha and Trisha has like a lot of friends and colleagues, and when we go out, I don't really know them. They usually talk about eye stuff with me, so I get pretty annoyed about it. But she brings out her friends, and I'm like, oh man, it's going to be one of those eye doctor talks. They talk about their patients. I'm just sitting there eating whatever is in front of me, And so she brought her friend, and her friends brought their friends. So there's like a bunch of people in there, right? We're sitting there, and I'm trying my best to like, be charming and talk, blah blah blah, right? And there was these two guys who were Trisha didn't know them, but they were a friend of a friend, and their names were Enoch and Noah, right? And I was like, hey, those are biblical names, right? And the guy was like, those two guys were like, they were twins. Like, hey, how'd you know? And then Trisha's friend, who knows, is like, oh, because he's a pastor. Everyone always drop my title. Like, they're a pastor. I'm like, wait, don't say that yet, right now. Right? It's going to be awkward right at this moment, And they were like, oh, really? And they started talking about how their grandparents were pastors, and that's how they got their name. And then there's this girl who sat right in front of me. And she's like, you're a pastor? I was like, yep. Yes, I am, right? And then she's like, what's wrong with me? I'm like, like, right now? Like, if you're a pastor, tell me what's wrong with me, right? But she has a really thick Chinese accent. She's like, tell me what's wrong with me. I was like, So I just sat there, like, I was like, you feel empty, right? It's like the Holy Spirit moment, like you feel empty because you've been running for this career that you've been wanting and you haven't got it, and you are not satisfied, right? I looked at that as the most calm and like zoned in moment ever. She looked at me and she started crying. Right? Her friends were like, "What are you doing? Like, what did you say to her?" I'm like, "I don't know." Right? And she was like, "You must be a pastor. How did you know that?" I'm like, I just took a guess. Honestly, like you're all the same age. There must be a problem with your career, right? So I was like, that's really how it was, but she was like, "Man," but the words hit the nerve. You know why? Because that's her master. And she failed her master. And the feeling that she gets out of it is not joy or forgiveness or peace. It's an emptiness and unworthiness. Unworthiness. And it comes. And some of you guys may be in that place where you're worshiping worthless things that does not forgive, that leaves you empty, that leaves you yearning and fighting and wanting more. How do you speak to generation? You don't need to talk about sin and forgiveness. You speak into their idols. What is it that runs and rules their hearts? Start there. That's the conversation you start at. And you tell them, can I give you someone who truly does satisfy? Right? See, God is the only master who will satisfy you deeply when you have him, but forgive you if you fail him. Right? How do we speak to this generation? It's deeds. You gotta love with your deeds. You gotta live out your faith. You can't just talk about it and be here. You gotta live it out wherever you go. And you gotta not just like, it has to be an expression of your life. It has to be the culture of your spirit. It has to be this journey of what you do without even thinking about it. It's just who you are. It comes forth. Deeds allows for words. 2, you speak into the idols of the people around you. Everyone has an idol. Everybody has an idol. Everyone is worshiping something. You know it for a fact. That's not even like all humanity is worshiping something. Speak into that. Tell them that. Has that satisfied you? Because that's what you give your heart and worship to. Right? What's the third thing? Check it out. Verse 12 and 13. Okay? The people were shocked when they were doing all this stuff, when they healed the guy, right? They said that the gods have come down to us in human form. Verse 12. Barnabas they called Zeus, and Paul they called Hermes, because he was the chief speaker. And the priests of Zeus, whose temple was just outside the city, brought bulls and wreaths to the city gates, because he and the crowd wanted to offer sacrifices to them. You know what was so amazing? You know what shook them to their core? Was this very thing that they believed in, they thought is here. God has become men. The gods have came and became men. Well, there is a God that became man, did he not? Right? Who is that? Jesus, right? There is a God that became, but they were so excited because for the moment, for this moment in their life, for this moment in their life, their deep longing for something unbelievable seems to be a reality. Isn't that crazy? For this moment that the dreams that they've had, these thoughts that they thought was impossible, for this moment watching Paul heal this man, they thought to himself, I knew it. I knew there was more. I knew reality is more than this. I knew it. We're all having that. There's a deep longing in our hearts. Imagine this, okay? Deep down inside, we have a deep desire, a deep longing, a deep wanting, deep fascination for heroes, for gods, for magic, for fantasy, right? Lord of the Rings became one of the like the movies. Have you ever seen Lord of the Rings? Right? A lot of people they're like, oh, no one's gonna. When they told Peter Jackson, don't make that movie. That's just a bunch for kids. No one's gonna watch it. And yet it won a bunch of Academy Awards. It became like one of the highest grossing movies. You know why? Avatar, Avatar, by a bunch of aliens that's blue and huge. Right? Biggest box office draw. Right? People watch it like 10 times because they thought, I don't want to live in this reality. I want to live in that reality. Navi, that's the reality I want to live in. You know? Do you know why? Do you know why there's such that huge fantasy, that huge longing for it, huge fascination for it? Do you know why sometimes you look in the mirror and you kind of like, I wish I could have those wishes. If there's a lamp and it all came, I can snap my finger and I can six pack, right? Or snap my finger and like, wow, perfect hair. You know, like just to have that. You know where that longing of something that's just unbelievable comes? You know where that comes from? It comes from those ideas, those fantasies, those wanting for that. All of that is a dream of a real reality. You know what the real reality is? Genesis chapter 1, that we were made to walk among angels. Genesis chapter 1, that we were made to speak to God. Genesis chapter 1, that we were made never to see death. Genesis chapter 1, where we were made to subdue all creation. That is the reality of humanity. But because of the fall, now we're just kind of clinging to it as if it was a dream. We're in this dream state. We're not fully awakened because we're thinking, can this reality be true? Can this really be real? Can this longing for something bigger, something more fantastical, is that really possible? And do you know what Jesus is? He is the fulfilling of that longing. If you see Jesus, he is the fulfilling of that longing because Jesus broke from divinity into humanity. He stepped into this world, a God becoming man. Jesus said that which you dream in, that fairy tale, it's a reality. That which you hope for, that which you thought might not be possible, but you wish it was possible, it is reality. Because I have came back from the dead, and I'm telling you, there is a reality that which you were made to be in, that you have lost, that I am bringing back. That longing that's in your spirit to never die, to live, it was yours from the beginning. The reason why you're yearning for it now, because it is a dream that your soul is grasping for, trying to remember, what was it that gives me this yearning for it? Oh yeah, I was made for it. I was made in the image of my God for this. That life would never end. That I will speak to angels. That I will walk with God. That was my reality. Now we're living in the dream. And Jesus Christ says what? It's not a dream. It's not a dream. It's real. I am the fulfillment of that. I am here to tell you that my death, my resurrection, is the inauguration of you waking up. You waking up from a life of hopeful wishing, possible dreams, to a reality where all things are made new. You will never see death. Even if death comes, life will overcome it. I am the inauguration that tells you there will be a day where you will stand among angels and they will serve you, Hebrews. There will be a day where you will stand before my Father in the house of my God. It is real. The people, they went crazy. They were so shook because in their hearts, that longing that they had for something more, they thought for a second it was reality. But Paul is like, it is reality, but I'm not the God. I'm not the God you're looking for. The reality which you're looking for is Jesus Christ. Do you understand that, guys? That's what Jesus offers. That's who Jesus is. He is the only one that speaks into that longing that you have. And it's not just words. He actually did it by doing what? Coming back from the dead. If he was dead, it's done. But he came back. So that reality of this hopeful wishing, these dreams, these fantasies, this dream state in which you're living in, Jesus is saying that dream that you think you're in, the reality is, it's true. All of it is true. Let me help you wake up. Let me help you wake up to who you're meant to be. And that's the way Paul spoke to this crowd. And then when we begin to speak into this generation, or you begin to live out your life, you got to realize that your deeds does a lot more talking than your words, right? That when you begin to engage with people, you don't need to articulate the doctrines of sin and humanity to people. You don't need to know the doctrine of God and all that stuff. You just speak very shrewdly. Hey, you have a master. We all have one. I think your master's killing you, right? And I think you keep chasing after him or after it. It is never satisfying you. I have one that does satisfy and forgives when I fail. And even more than that, my God who came back from the dead tells me the deepest longing that I have in my heart is real. It's not a dream. It's reality. I will walk with God. I will speak with angels. Right? I will never die. That is reality. We're just waking up from it. Let's pray.